My relationship ended abruptly in July 2007 with no warning. I had an emotional breakdown because I couldn't comprehend the truth of what was happening. My heart felt as if it had been stabbed. Then, in December, my dear companion of 12 years, my dog, became unwell and died after only a few days. That dog was family to me, always by my side, even when I slept. I couldn't bear the thought of so many awful occurrences happening all at once and so soon. As a result, I experienced insomnia and had to resort to consuming hard liquor to sleep every night. I drank till I was vomiting blood, yet I kept drinking. My body became extremely tired and my mind lost focus. It was discovered that I had acquired bleeding ulcers. Even though I was already weary and ill, I decided to go to the gym and jog one night after work in July 2008. I was really lost. Why must the sky treat me like this? I kept thinking while working out. I ran like hell on the treadmill, using all of my strength. But the longer I ran, the tighter my chest felt, and the more uncomfortable I felt. I left the gym right away, feeling that something was wrong. I was considering going straight home to relax. My calves, legs, and fingers had begun to spasm terribly by the time I arrived at the metro station. Then all of the muscles in my body started cramping up. My heartbeat became increasingly rapid, and it became evident to me that my body was out of my hands. A crowd gathered, and even a subway employee appeared. I asked her to call an ambulance right away. I became quite nervous, and all of the blood in my body began to withdraw towards my heart. Every part of my body, including my organs, was in excruciating pain. I could feel my organs becoming more active, and then I noticed time slowing down. I felt myself entering and exiting this world's space-time. The environment seemed to be moving slowly while my thoughts were racing. I can attest to the fact that my intellect must have been the fastest in the world at the time. I wanted to lift my right hand to check how my body was doing, but my right hand would not respond. As my body grew colder and colder, my hands and feet felt like jello. I could hardly look down on my right hand, which was now bloodless. My beating felt erratic and strained, and I could feel my heart becoming increasingly uncomfortable. At this time, my brain was warning me that my heart would cease soon. I could genuinely feel what it was like to get closer and closer to death, which has to be the most terrifying experience in the world. I began to worry about my family, all the things I hadn't done, and how unhappy my family would be if I died, and how I needed to contact my little brother and give my final words to him, and so on. Hands, please move. Please move, I implored myself mentally. But they didn't. I knew I wouldn't make it till the ambulance arrived, so I wanted to ask the subway employee if they had a defibrillator. But my mouth wouldn't move, and my hearing was beginning to warp. My physiological functions continued to decline as I lay powerless, and my thoughts continued to race. My thoughts became faster as experiences from my life began to flash by, and my brain processes appeared to exceed the limits of human capabilities. This unusual circumstance concerned me. Yet all I could think was, can't someone please help me? My eyelids began to droop, and I reminded myself, don't fall asleep. Stay strong. Don't doze off. Be patient. Finally, I had exhausted all of my strength. My heart was no longer racing, and my eyelids were finally closing. At this point, a vision of a fast climb into the sky appeared in my head. Even though it was night, I could see that the sky was incredibly bright. I am God, said a voice in my head, and I felt as if he perfectly understood me and knew my entire life. I imagined him to be God, all-powerful and capable of assisting me. So I began to beg him, pleading with him in my heart. Please, save me. I don't want to die. Give me another chance to live a meaningful life. I kept apologizing to him, sorry for the life I'd led. If I don't die, I will. I would, I told him. Then he asked, Are you going to church? My heart was going to stop, and my eyes were about to close, so I consented right away. I felt like I'd leave this world in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, I felt a surge of energy throughout my body. My eyelids lifted easily. Circulation restored to my hands and feet, and my body began to warm up. All of my physical functions were restored to normal, and I was able to stand up. The first question I asked myself was, I said I was going to church. Why? I was aware that I'd always been averse to churches. I couldn't believe I was about to proclaim that I was going to start going to church right away. Finally, the paramedics arrived. A little while ago, when I felt my blood returning to my heart, what exactly was going on? I asked the paramedics on the way to the hospital. They stated casually that when the body goes into emergency survival mode, it'll automatically direct blood flow to the vital core organs in preparation for the ultimate battle. They insisted on keeping me for 4 days when I arrived at the hospital. I couldn't tolerate being in the hospital and had planned to sneak out the first day, but my body was so weary that I didn't. When I awoke the next morning, I felt entirely different. My character was evolved. I wasn't feeling like myself. My heart felt so tranquil and full of love. I felt like it was going to be a fresh new life from then on, and that I would forgive everyone I'd ever resented. Then, one by one, the days passed, and I gradually forgot about my vow to go to church. I hadn't told anyone about the occasion where I met God, so there was no one to remind me of my commitment. Throughout those 2 years, I kept seeing visions of people from church, and these images would hit my heart with such love that I would cry uncontrollably. And there was this constant voice in my head begging me to go to church, but I kept telling myself, later. Later, I will absolutely go. The sights and voices began to occur less regularly, gradually fading completely. My second dog was diagnosed with cancer in February of 2010. We took it to the veterinarian who operated on it. He demonstrated to my youngest brother that the cancer had spread throughout his body and that he had only a month or 2 to live. The entire family was devastated. I remembered the God who had before aided me, so I told him, if my dog lives for more than 3 months, I'll attend to church. As it turned out, my dog was still alive and well 3 months later, strolling around as if nothing had happened. We took the dog to the clinic for a minor sickness in the fall of the same year, and the vet was startled to see my dog, asking, "How can your dog still be alive?" My dog didn't die away until the end of July 2011, at the ripe old age of nearly 12. Around the summer of 2010, I began asking around to see who went to church in order to receive a recommendation. A gym customer recommended a church in Kowloon. This was to be my first church visit of my entire life. I boarded the Kowloon bus and proceeded to the upper deck, where, because all of the window seats were taken, I chose a seat next to the most genteel-looking individual I could spot. When I sat down, he handed me a card that read, Sun Yat-sun, founding father of modern China, was a Christian. So we started conversing. What a funny coincidence that I end myself on the bus next to a preacher the first time I go to church. Quite a stroke of luck. The pastor gave me a quick run-through of what to expect, so I wouldn't be so reluctant to hearing about Jesus. But I still felt a little hesitant on the inside. After my first visit to the church, I exclaimed, "Mission complete," in reference to my vow. And after a few more visits, I really didn't want to go back. So I left the church at that point. I felt really uneasy after I left, so I told God, "God, I'm quitting the church on purpose. So if you exist, you will locate a nice female to take me back there. I'll wager no one has ever prayed for a girl to invite them to church," I thought. In fact, I'm confident that this will never happen. I reasoned that by expressing this unrealistic wish, I would never have to attend to church again. I did it in this manner to appease my conscience, After a month, at a CPR class, I met a very pure and true-looking girl who asked me whether I went to church. For a few seconds, I was stunned. I couldn't believe this was occurring. So I finally realized that God exists in this world, and I questioned God whether it was He who had rescued me 4 years earlier during my NDE. I went to church with this girl a few days later. We sat down and began reading the day's synopsis, which stated, "Without God, there is no life." "God is speaking to you," exclaimed the girl. "I'm even more startled than you are," I replied. My heart was broken by the impact. I inquired as to how long she had believed in God. How many people did she bring to church? She claimed she had believed in God for 8 years and had only recently begun attending to church more frequently. But I was the only person she'd ever questioned if they attended to church or not. As everyone rose to sing the Psalms, a voice came to me. "Now you have to spread the good word." I said, "But I don't know what the good word is." After a while, I realized that many of my friends and even strangers began to share their deepest feelings and ideas, as well as their sorrow and suffering, with me. Even people I'd known for a few hours would reveal their deepest thoughts to me, which had never happened before. As long as I kept talking to these folks, my body and mind would experience bizarre new sensations. I was filled with power, sincere emotions, and feelings of vitality, mental sharpness, quickness of thought and intelligence, and the divine spark of creativity. And I would quickly speak from the depths of my inspiration. As a result, I was always followed to church. Growing up in a village, my mother had been an ancestor worshiper and a Buddhist since childhood. Ancestor and Buddha worship is the predominant religion of the Chinese in general. And she had a Guanyin, or Bodhisattva, commonly known in English as the Goddess of Mercy, statue in her house. A few years ago, she began to experience a persistent pain just behind her left ear, which bothered her much. The doctor explained that it was due to joint degradation, but no matter what medication she tried, the agony did not go away, and it has already been more than 2 years. I asked her to pray about it in the spring of 2011. "What type of church is this church of yours now?" she scolded passionately. "What kind of God is he? Are you insane? If praying could cure ailments, why do we still need doctors?" "All you have to do is speak a few words," I said. "Do you even have the guts to try?" She slowed down, listened to me, and then made her first prayer. "God, if you indeed exist, please heal the area below my left ear. I'll go to church when it no longer aches." I found out that the pain gradually lessened with time. The days went into weeks, and the pain was completely gone after only 1 month. Also, after returning from a trip, my mother told me that at the hotel, when she was trying to sleep, a ghost had sat on her, to the point where she couldn't move, and she couldn't even open her eyes. "Lord Jesus Christ, save me," she prayed in her heart. "Lord Jesus Christ, please help me." She was able to open her eyes and move her mouth, after which she began to pray loudly. She had acquired a state of serenity and peace and was no longer afraid. The rest of the night at the motel went by without incident of any kind, not even unusual noises. She slept comfortably as well, and she was grateful to Jesus Christ for that. "In the past, I would have remained awake all night, and the pressure on my body from the ghost would not have stopped," she explained. "But this time, once I started praying, I was free to move. This is amazing, and I'm no longer terrified. It's good to have faith in Jesus Christ. We now have 4 believers in the Lord in our family. The house idols have been removed, and our family relationships have improved. We're considerably happier now than we were before. The mother is also spreading the word, and believers are leading their relatives and friends to the Lord.